Looking at so many fallen corrupt officials, basically, apart from corruption, they are involved in sexual scandals, and these two vices often go hand in hand. Regardless of whether the fallen officials are male or female, they are all related to these two vices. To begin with, let's talk about Su Chai-hu, a lieutenant general and former deputy chief of the General Logistics Department of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Xinhua news agency reported that General Su was removed from his position and arrested in 2012 on charges of corruption, accepting bribes, misusing state funds, and abusing power. Investigators discovered that through a series of corrupt land and property deals within the military, Su had embezzled at least $5 billion and accumulated over 300 villas and apartments, including dozens of real estate properties in Beijing. He also had extramarital relationships with 5 women, including singers, film stars, and television presenters. During a search of his mansion, built on nearly 1 hectare of land in his hometown of Huonan, which was designed like the Forbidden City, police found gold, silver, gemstones, and valuable items filling 4 trucks, a cellar filled with rare wines, and a solid gold statue. There were reports that he once used a Mercedes to transport 100 kg of gold bars for padding. On August 10, 2015, a military court in China sentenced Su Qihu to death but suspended the execution of the death penalty for 2 years. Additionally, he was permanently stripped of all political rights and had his personal assets confiscated. General Su Chai-hu was considered the first big tiger from the PLA to be captured in the vigorous anti-corruption campaign initiated by President Xi Jinping. Since then, dozens of other high-ranking military leaders of the PLA have been arrested, investigated, and tried for various criminal offenses, including 2 former vice chairmen of the Central Military Commission, Su Chai-hu and Kuo Bu-sung, who received a life sentence in July 2016 for greed and moral degeneration. Su Chai-yao, the former director of the Changsu Provincial Department of Construction, he was said to have had 146 lovers. Not only did he have many mistresses, he was also involved in inappropriate behavior with a woman and her daughter. There's also a diary of sexual encounters detailing the names, physical characteristics, and intimate moments with various partners. What's even more disturbing is that he seemed to view these encounters as glorious achievements, proudly sharing them with friends during drinking sessions, even shamelessly comparing the bedroom skills of his lovers. Furthermore, we will talk about this name, Chang Xi'an. Xi'an is not satisfied with just these two but goes even further, involving gambling and prostitution. Tempted by power, he gradually corrupted himself and was finally brought to justice. Chang Xi'an once served in Tiananmen and Danjiangkou. During his tenure, he promoted local economic development and received high praise from superiors. In 2001, he was promoted to the party secretary of Tiananmen City, becoming a local warlord. Taking advantage of his powerful position, he was engaged in dirty dealings. With the rise of his official position and increasing power, he began to disregard the law and openly accepted bribes. After investigation, he embezzled $104,300 of public funds. With money in hand, he indulged himself and even participated in underground gambling, seeking profits in various ways. Apart from corruption and gambling, he was also deeply involved in the lust. He maintained improper relationships with multiple women for a long time, totaling 107 individuals, including businesswomen, subordinates, and service staff from various entertainment establishments, leading a truly decadent falling from grace at the end of 2001. After investigation, Chang Xi'an was found to be a corrupt official with the 5 poisons, including blowing, plundering, selling, corruption, gambling, prostitution, and greed. He was eventually sentenced to 15 years in prison, marking the end of his career and reputation. He would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Chang Xi'an, a promising senior cadre, lost himself to greed, crossed the moral bottom line, violated laws and regulations, and ultimately descended into the abyss, never daring to lift his head again. Moreover, there are officials who, from the beginning, pursue personal wealth. They climb the ranks through connections and backdoor dealings. Let's talk about an official who, in his confession letter, explicitly states that his worldview, life philosophy, and values have always revolved around the pursuit of power and wealth. He only cares about himself, placing personal interests above all else. He lacks the sense of duty that officials should have and his far lifestyle. From 1993 to 2001, during this 8-year period, he accepted more than $1 million in bribes and engaged in corrupt practices involving lust, ultimately from being a servant of the people. Instead, he uses the cloak of power to seek personal gain. This person is Wu Qiming, the former Deputy Secretary General of the Jiangxi provincial government. Wu Qiming not only established a set of principles for amassing wealth called the 10 Don'ts, but also indulged in debauchery. It is alleged that he had improper relationships with 136 women, even devising a 5-year plan to have relations with 1,000 women within 5 years, with 1/3 of them being married women. His greed and indulgence ultimately broke 2 records in Jiangxi province. He became the highest amount corruption investigated official in Jiangxi since the founding of the People's Republic of China, involving a corruption amount of over 47 million yuan. He also holds the record for the largest single bribe amount among officials, involving more than 11 million in corruption. Wu Qiming's case raises many questions. Why can't some officials stay true to their original intentions and instead becoming corrupt? Why can't they prioritize the interests of the people over personal gain and be blinded by greed and power? These questions remind us of a Chinese leader. Just when you thought things couldn't get more scandalous, another official has been exposed for wrongdoing. Another case of a promiscuous official is Pan Yu-mei. Pan Yu-mei, formerly an assistant to the district head of Chaijia district in Nanjing, China, and the former secretary of the Maigaoqiao Street Working Committee, is one of the most corrupt officials in Nanjing, with the largest single cash bribe in her name. Pan Yu-mei began to stray from the right path. She abused her authority, providing favorable conditions and preferential policies to certain investors and entrepreneurs in exchange for significant returns. She engaged in improper sexual relationships with some leaders and businessmen to gain more benefits and protection. Her greed and desires grew stronger, leading her to misuse her power, making unilateral decisions on matters such as land sales, project bidding, and project approvals, and accepting substantial bribes. She also used companies under her control to participate in illegal land transactions and resales, reaping substantial profits. Pan Yu-mei's main accomplices were Mr. Gaio, a village leader in Maigaoqiao town, and Chen Ning, the former deputy secretary of the district committee and district mayor of Xi'an district. Both were also her lovers. Gaio was one of the earliest individuals to offer bribes to Pan Yu-mei, initially giving her 2 bottles of Mutai liquor, $1,400 in total, but concealing $10,000 within the liquor bottles. Later, he repeatedly gave her cash and gifts, totaling $650,000. Mr. Gaio also became one of Pan Yu-mei's lovers, and they frequently met in cities like Shanghai. Taking advantage of Pan Yu-mei's power, he secured numerous benefits for his company. He also participated in land transactions organized by Pan Yu-mei, reaping profits. Chen Ning, on the other hand, was the former deputy secretary of the district committee and district mayor of Xi'an district. He was also one of Pan Yu-mei's lovers, and they frequently booked hotel rooms in Nanjing and Shanghai to fulfill Pan Yu-mei's demands. He provided political support and protection multiple times. He also engaged in illegal land transactions with Pan Yu-mei. He once received $670,000 from a Hong Kong businessman, which he shared with Pan Yu-mei. In addition to Mr. Gaio and Chen Ning, Pan Yu-mei had improper sexual relationships with other leaders and businessmen, gaining significant benefits from these encounters. According to statistics, she accepted a total of $1.07 million. During the investigation, authorities unexpectedly discovered a diary written by Pan Yu-mei. This diary detailed her sexual encounters with 180 men from 2000 to 2007, including their names, heights, weights, and the duration of their relationships. The diary was explicit and contained explicit details about her interactions with these individuals. When one of Pan Yu-mei's close associates, Gaio, was investigated by the disciplinary committee, he decided to expose her actions to avoid legal consequences. This led to an immediate investigation into Pan Yume. Although she attempted to cover up her crimes, the truth was eventually uncovered. During a search of her home, authorities found 26 kilograms of cash, along with a diary containing the names of over 180 men, which served as compelling evidence of her wrongdoings. In a shocking turn of events, she was sentenced to death, with the execution postponed by 2 years. This sentence was handed down in 2009 when she was 46 years old. Lu Gongming, the female tax chief of the National Internal Revenue Service, spent a huge amount of public money on plastic surgery and was nicknamed the most beautiful butt. It can be said that she is a strong woman in the tax system of Xi'an City, Liaoning Province. From an ordinary tax administrator to the deputy director and director of the tax office, deputy section chief and section chief of the Municipal National Taxation and Taxation Section, he has been the director of the Municipal National Taxation Bureau. Lu Gongming's success all depended on sleeping. Not only did she rely on her butt for promotion and her fortune, she also relied on her butt to solve her own corruption problems. Those who reported her corruption were knocked to the ground, and her superiors were manipulated into submission. Butt is simply the capital for her promotion and wealth, and she is invincible. Although Lu Gongming is over 50 years old, she longs for youth and immortality. To this end, she spared no expense and spent 5 million yuan on plastic surgery all over her body in Hong Kong, Shanghai, and other places. In order to make her butt beautiful, the cost of plastic surgery on her buttocks alone reached a number far from one can imagine. It is jokingly called the most beautiful butt in Anshan City. In 2019, the satellite television station Younan in China aired a documentary series that exposed the criminal activities of a female government official in the country. This series included 4 films focusing on anti-corruption themes. The investigative reports brought to light the wrongdoing of Xi'an, the former female head of a provincial credit cooperative union and concurrently the secretary and chairwoman of the Council of Cooperatives. She was implicated in a corruption case involving over $139 billion. Xi'an was shown to engage in illicit relationships with various government officials, including a high-ranking provincial leader in Vietnam, for over a decade while she was still employed at the finance department. This connection allowed her to exert significant influence, particularly in financial matters, and engage in large-scale corrupt activities. Xi'an was known for her lavish lifestyle and her involvement in multiple romantic affairs with various men while holding positions of power. Even when she traveled abroad for work, she didn't hesitate to request her associates to arrange meetings with her lovers by name. Her romantic involvements extended beyond Tao Jianfang. Xi'an was romantically linked with several other men, exploiting her authority to assist her young paramours, who were often businessmen. She used her influence to secure financial support, facilitate construction projects, and streamline loan procedures. In July 2015, Xi'an became the subject of an investigation, and by June 2018, she was sentenced to over 10 years in prison for accepting bribes. According to the indictment, she had received bribes totaling nearly $300,000. The total value of assets seized was $470,000. In the same legal proceedings, several other officials were also demoted, including Tao Jianfang, Wan Ren Li, the chairman of the Rural Credit Cooperatives Council of the province, the deputy head of the cooperative union. It was revealed that Xi'an had intimate relationships with more than 40 officials, and some even ascended to positions such as deputy mayor. These stories of corruption, debauchery, and abuse of power within the Chinese government reveal a disturbing and deeply entrenched culture of corruption and immorality. Since Jiang Zemin took leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, corruption has increasingly become an intractable issue within the system. The leading figure of the current chaos in the Chinese political arena is seriously concerned about the widespread debauchery of sexual lifestyles. Discussions of sexual scandals have become common and almost impossible to change. This phenomenon has persisted for decades and gradually become an unwritten rule among government officials, whether they are from a rich or poor background. Society has evolved to a point where no one can deny this reality.